Do you ever get off your Disney cruise and think, wow, I'd love to just stay on board? Did you know you can actually do that? It's called a back-to-back cruise. We're going to tell you all about it today on the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. Hello and welcome to the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. I'm Chris Forbeck, one of the agents with Dreams Unlimited Travel. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We recently did a show about Disembarkation Day, and I know they're always, it's like a stressful day. It's not fun. It's sort of wah, wah, wah. What if you didn't have to do that? Today, we're going to talk about back-to-back cruises. Some people don't even know you can do this. So you can just stay right on board. Not bad. And you get off one and get right back on. It's lovely. And here to walk us through it is Dreams Unlimited travel agent Elaine Edwards. Hello, Elaine.
Hi, friends.
And of course, we have our amazing producer, Jimmy Valdez. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello.
Glad you guys are both here. You peoples are both guys. That's horrible to say. Glad you're both here. How's that? We have a lot to talk about, but first, I want to remind you that this show, along with everything we do at the DIS Unlimited, DCL fan, UO fan, it's all brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. We're experts at helping you plan a magical Disney cruise, a visit to a amazing Disney theme park, your Universal adventure, Epic Universe. Oof, so cool. Even other cruise lines. There's no additional cost to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel, none. But we're going to give you insights into your Disney cruise, your Disney destinations, your Disney trip, a hotel that you may be staying at, your trip to Universal. So they have a lot of hotels now too. This is what we do. So we're going to give you insights about how to do it the best way possible that works for you and your family. And by booking your cruise with Dreams Unlimited Travel, you get a shipboard credit of up to $1,000, depending on the price of your cruise. And I always hear people say, "What? Nothing's for free." It's just free money to spend on board, and it doesn't cost you an additional dime. Best way to get started: dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And I always note, by way of transparency, Elaine and I are Dreams Unlimited travel agents. This is our job. We do it because we love Disney and Disney Cruise Line. And we are, that. My goodness, you're watching a Disney Cruise Line podcast. But we also try and be as objective as possible and help you. Our job, both here on this podcast and as agents, is to give you information so you can make the best decision for you and your family. We hope you book with Dreams. And when you do that, it allows us to do this podcast. But if you don't, we still hope you have an amazing time. And we hope we help you do that. So thank you for being here. We're going to talk about back-to-back cruises because we actually had somebody who posted in one of the YouTube pages said, I didn't know you could do back-to-back cruises. So Elaine, let's start with the basics. What is a back-to-back cruise?
So the official back-to-back cruise would be cruising on the same ship in consecutive itineraries. So the day that you get off the first cruise, you would be getting back on the same ship for another cruise. Now, there are other variations. We do have people that will get off the ship and then get on another ship that is sailing either out of the same port or out of another, they'll sell the first one out of Port Canaveral and then they'll sell the next one out of Fort Lauderdale on the same day. But we do not consider those official back-to-backs in these terms as far as all the logistics that we're going to be talking about. So.
And why choose a back-to-back? I mean, I certainly one is you get to stretch your vacation, right? Make it longer, which is nice. And are there other reasons for actually doing a back-to-back cruise?
Well, I mean, everybody has their own. I will tell you, for me personally, I have done a back-to-back, and I did it on the Wish right after the Wish was launched. And I did it because I was assuming that, this was at the time that the Wish was a brand new layout. It was completely different from the other four ships. It was completely different, restaurants and everything going on board. And it just seemed like this was going to be way too much to be able to, as my job, experience it and take it all in one 3-night sailing.
Right.
So we did the friend that I sailed with, we did a back-to-back. So we did a 3-night and a 4-night on the Wish. That way we could eat at all of the rotational restaurants. We could eat at the adult dining. We could do room service. We could do the lounges. We could do all of the shows. Like that way we could do everything.
Right.
And it was very interesting how it worked out, because we then had another couple that actually ended up joining us on the second one. And then at the very last minute, my sister ended up joining us on the second one.
Oh,
So
wow.
the first
Awesome.
Yeah, so the first one we sailed to just us, and then the second one we had all these other people jump on board and join us. So
And
now we do.
if I,
Go
if I
ahead.
remember correctly, you did concierge on one and non-concierge on another, correct? So it also, there were those kinds of differences, right?
Yes, yes, and that was part of it, because we knew that doing concierge, we wanted to. It was the first time for either one of us sailing in concierge, and so we wanted to be able to use those amenities
Right.
and spend time just being on the concierge, pool and deck and lounge, and just be able to just sit there and chill. And both of us had our laptops, so we were working, and so it was a nice experience to be able to do that without the pressure of I need to go see every room on the ship. So there was a lot of reasons that we kind of put all of that together, but it worked out really well. It was a great trip, both of them. So, and I got to experience the whole logistics of the back to back. So
Yeah. The other reason people will often want to do back to backs is if you're teetering on like you're about to get to platinum and you want to like goose it a little forward, you get 2 cruise credits. You get credit for both cruises, so it can all of a sudden it's like 2 for the instead of if you do a 7-night cruise, you're only getting 1. There you get 2 by doing it, so it can move you up the castaway ladder a little faster. Elaine, one of the questions we always get asked about back-to-back cruises are, do I get a discount for doing a back-to-back cruise? Short answer, no.
no, and you can't buy a placeholder on the first one and apply it to the second one.
Right, exactly.
Doesn't
So no, there's no. That's not one of the reasons to do it. But you get to spend more time on a Disney ship. It's separate. Let's go through some.
If you think about it, you do get a discount because you're not flying back and forth to wherever you're going twice. You're not having 2 hotel reservations. You're not having 2 rounds of transfers. So that is the savings right there.
There you go. Some tips and tricks. We always like to remind folks that your back to back. These are 2 separate reservations. So there. Disney doesn't have a way of saying, hey, this is one big reservation. In fact, we were on, I forget what cruise it was on, but somebody was essentially spending the entire summer on, I believe it was our Greek cruise, but they were spending the entire summer on the ship in Europe. Lovely. I wish I could do that. But each of those would be separate reservations. So you can, they're not connected other than you're the connection. One of the things, well, Elaine, when you did your back to back, you couldn't have had the same stateroom because one was concierge, one was not concierge. When you do this for clients, how important? Some people like they really want the same stateroom. Some people don't. How do you work that?
For the most part, I would say 90% of my back-to-back clients, we will put them in the same stateroom. Truly, it's for convenience of not having to move. If they are booking more last minute, we might not be able to do that. But it really is great. And I'm sure we will talk about that as we get into more like specific logistics. But it's kind of so easy to be in the same stateroom. And one thing while you were talking about these are 2 separate reservations, if you are going to be purchasing travel insurance, think about that, because if you are going to be buying it through Disney Cruise Line, that means you are paying that price twice. Whereas if you look at another outside third party, you could just buy one policy that would cover the entire thing. So make sure you look at those options as well.
And we will talk about the logistics in a minute, but just realize that if you have the same stateroom, you don't even have to pack up. You just leave your room, just your stateroom, just as you, and come back to it, and it's all, it'll all be cleaned up just as it normally is. So there is something nice about that. It's one of the reasons why I always let folks know, if you're thinking about a back to back, I tend to, and you want the same stateroom, and some people really do, book early. That's when you're going to get the best availability, and so think about that. We'll do the best we can, but we can't guarantee it, of course. So let's talk about the logistics of back-to-backs, because you've actually done this. Tell us what it's like. Walk us through. So you're ending your one cruise, and you're everyone's getting ready to get off the ship. Walk us through what happens.
So, first of all, there's some things up front as well. You do want to make sure that you have the cruise noted with Disney Cruise Line that it is a back-to-back. You don't want to just do this without Disney Cruise Line knowing that you're doing this. And they do this all the time. You're not going to be the only person on that ship doing back-to-back. There's going to be a lot of people doing back-to-backs. And so you need to, your Dreams Unlimited travel agent will take care of this for you. You don't even need to ask them. We know that this is the drill, and we do it automatically when we book it. And so we have it noted on both the front end and the second end that you are going to be staying on the ship. That way Disney knows to give you the correct paperwork and to help you through this. Additionally, we didn't talk about, as far as itineraries as well. When you're doing a back-to-back, you might not be doing the same itinerary, especially if you are going to be doing the Caribbean. You might do the first one is Eastern, the second one is Western. I have a lot of people do that. I have a lot of people do this in Europe as well, because each of the sailings is different. And so they will do that in Europe and that kind of thing. You do need to make sure, do not put any money on back-to-back cruises until your agent or you have verified by talking to somebody at Disney Cruise Line that you are allowed to do a back-to-back on that cruise. There are certain cruises that you are not allowed to do that, and they have to do, there are some, I forget what the name of the law is, but it has to do particularly when you have open itineraries, so you're not leaving and coming back to the exact same port. When you're booking kind of one of those situations, it's like if you did like a repositioning cruise and then another one on the end of it, you need to make sure that you are allowed to book this as a back-to-back before you actually book it, because there are some of them that don't allow us to do that.
It's one of the weird things about maritime law. It's called the Jones Act, and it's mostly U.S. You have to have an outside port, and people have, it's a law that's been around for like 60 years. It really wreaks havoc. And in fact, I had a friend it was not a Disney cruise, but she was sailing from Alaska all the way down and was going to get off the ship in San Francisco. And they said, no, you can't do that. She had to get off. She got off, ended up getting off the ship in Vancouver because of this Jones Act. So definitely be aware of it. Most Disney ships, they have other stops, but definitely check into it beforehand. But it's a great point.
Yeah. Okay. So back to your original question, which was what you said. I've been on back-to-back.
You've been on back-to-back. Walk us through the process. You're going to get notification. Do they let you know? How do they let you know? What do they say? What do you need to do when you're on that? You've finished up your first cruise and you're ready to start the next one. What happens?
So when we got on the ship, the stateroom host, I believe pretty early on, like the first day, said, you are doing back-to-back, right? Like they confirmed with us, and they confirmed with us several times to make sure that that's what, and they said, you're not staying in the same room, right? Because they already knew we weren't going to be staying in the same room. So because we were not staying in the same room, we asked, are you able to move the luggage for us? 99% of the time, they're just going to do this automatically, but make sure that you talk to your stateroom host. And say, are you going to move the luggage for me? What would you like me to do with my luggage? That way you are up to date on whatever their current process is. And so they told us, yes, just pack it all up. If you'll leave it in the room, we will take care of moving it to your other stateroom for you. If you were to be staying in the stateroom, as Chris said, you don't have to do that. However, I would still recommend talking to your stateroom host and saying, because they still have to come into the room and turn it over, even if you're staying there. They still have to change all the sheets on the bed. They have to sanitize. There's a lot of things that they still have to do. And so, like, I want to be considerate to them. So I'm going to clear all of my stuff out of the bathroom and pack that away. Anything that's on the countertops, I'm going to pack that away. I'm not going to leave anything on the bed. I'm going to put all that stuff away and kind of just shove it to a corner. Anything that's in drawers and closets, that's probably fine. But just talk to your stateroom host, tell them, what would you like me to do that will make your job easier so that you can get done what you need to get done. So the night before you get off the ship, the way that they did it for us is they did give us a letter, and they had saying, this is what's going to happen. And they gave us 2 paper bright orange fluorescent tickets. This would have been in 2001, September 2001 that we did this. Yeah, September 2001 we did this. So we are filming this show in July of 25. Things may have changed, but this was the process at that time, that they gave us 2 paper tickets. And they said, you can stay on the ship as long as you like until the final call. Once we do final call, you have to get off the ship. So we could have gotten off the ship at Express Walk-Off and left the port and gone and done things out around, we could have gone to Kennedy Space Center. We could have, gone to breakfast somewhere. We could go do something. You don't have to stay in the port. And that's kind of cool if you are, especially if you're at, other ports, in a foreign country, you might want to go do something. But so you don't have to stay there. Because you are going to go through customs again both ways. So we did decide that we were going to stay there, and we stayed on until they forced us to get off. And so it was about, I would say it was 9:45, I would say. And so we got off the ship and we had those tickets in our hands the whole way. We went through the whole process as you normally would do with de-embarkation. So we went through customs, we showed our passports, we did all of that. Then once they spit you out on the other side, we're holding up our orange tickets at the cast members, and they said, you're going to walk outside, you're going to walk around the terminal, and then you're going to walk back in. So that's what we did. We walked outside. We actually we saw our server from Palo outside, which was amazing. She was like on her way to go, I don't know, take an hour break and go do something, I guess. So that was fun to see her and talk to her for a little bit in her like tank top and cut off shorts, which is not how you would server. So that was really fun. And so we just turned around, we went back inside. Then it was the same embarkation process. We went through check-in, they checked our passports, we sent our bags through security, did all of that exactly the same. Went upstairs to the top of the terminal, and we sat there for 2 hours. I was watching the clock very close because I wanted to see how long this was going to take. And it was an hour and 45 minutes. So it was, if you've never been to that terminal before, there is nothing to do. There is no food. There is no entertainment. There is nothing to do. Both of us work remotely, so we both had our laptops out and we were working the entire time. And when it was time that they were going to start boarding the ship, you are the first ones on, even before Concierge. You are boarding group 0. Like, you are the first ones back on, and that's what that magical little orange ticket did. So you got to go back on that ship way before anybody else did. Right. Now, I will tell you, it's a little less fanfare. They are not announcing your name and the cast members in the atrium cheering and Mickey and all that. None of that is happening. So don't expect that to happen again. because there was that fanfare did not happen. It was more they were still kind of turning over the ship. And so we went in, we ended up going up to the buffet and having a very early lunch, which was great because nobody was on board.
Yeah, I was going to
And
say that's one of the advantages is you get to see this ship really with very few people on board outside of cast members. I mean, you get it's like it's your ship. It's kind of cool.
it is really cool. And I would say there was probably 40 other people maybe doing it with us that were doing this. I mean, it wasn't a huge group, but it was pretty cool that there was, I mean, being the last ones off and the first ones on, and not just the first ones on and then Concierge got on. Like it was the first ones on and then like it was a while before Concierge got on. So we had the ship to ourselves for a while. So like I said, we just went up, we had a nice long leisurely lunch upstairs. And we just kind of watched out the windows because like I said, we had friends that were going to come with us and then my sister. So we were watching for their cars and everything and watching them walk across and everything. And so by the time they all got up to the buffet, the line's out the door. So we had already ate at that point and everything. So it was kind of fun. And then just like, before, once 1:30 rolls around, we were able to get to our rooms. Our luggage was there magically, and everything was a normal cruise after that. So it was fun, and it's fun kind of seeing some of the cast members, and they're like, "Oh, you're still here," and "Oh, you're back," and so that's a lot of fun.
One of the questions we often get asked is, can you have the same server team? Because you have a one server team. You can. You need to request it. We can do it before. In my experience, we've cruised with people who did it. We're doing another back-to-back right after the one that we were on, and the folks came by and asked before, so you can do it on board as well. So just make sure, because that can be fun to have the same crew that you're working with. The other thing you want to be aware of is you're going to get a brand new either Key to the World card, or you're going to have to resync your Disney Band Plus or Magic Band, however we refer to them. I don't know why they changed the name of those, frankly, but you're going to have to essentially they do a Control-Alt-Delete on Disney Cruise Line, the ship systems. So you're going to have to relink it to your new stateroom. So even if you're staying in the same stateroom, so just be aware of that as well. You're going to get those new things.
And at the same time, you're going to get another set of Castaway gifts in your stateroom as well. However, if you are in that rare occurrence where you're actually leveling up in between those two cruises, which I think that's what's happened with the person that I was sailing with. I'm pretty sure he leveled up to gold while we were in the middle of it. So but he's still the entire planning process until you finish that 5th cruise, you are still silver. They do not give you any sort of gold status on that 6th cruise until you click over. So the entire planning process for that second part of that back-to-back was still and I was still silver. So it was still the silver benefits as far as the timeline and all of that. And then when we got there, then we said to our stateroom host, he's gold now. And so they gave us the different lanyard and everything. But just know that you're not going to get any sort of advantages as far as being able to book activities early or check in early or anything like that if you are leveling up in between the cruises. So
we should note that there is laundry on board Disney ships. I know sometimes people think, oh, I'm not doing laundry on a Disney cruise. There is laundry. If you're on the Wish class ships, those laundry rooms are spectacular. Like it's how I want my home laundry to be. It's really nice. So if you're doing a back-to-back and you want to do laundry on board, you absolutely can do that, and maybe use that quiet time to do that. One of the general things I recommend is do laundry earlier than you think. If you're on a 7-night cruise, for example, and you're doing laundry, don't wait until the night before. Everyone's going to be in that laundry room, and it's just not going to be fun. So I usually do mine on a sea day fairly early on, but but definitely there is laundry if you do need that. We talked about dining. You can have the same dining team, so that you just need to make sure you pay attention to it and talk to them about it. Any itineraries? I mean, I know the Disney Wish gets a lot of these because it does the 3 and 4 nights, and you can easily combine those for a 7-night cruise. It's nice. The challenge with those is you're basically going to the same. The Disney Wish does those locations. It does Nassau and generally Castaway Cay, and then back. Difference. It adds a sea day on the 4-night, but so if you. But it's easy to do. Any other itineraries that you've seen people do back-to-backs on?
Well, like we kind of talked about earlier, I mean, a lot of people, for me personally, I would want something different. It was very weird going through an entire cruise as like deja vu. Like, then this was during Halloween too. So we had Halloween night twice, we had Pirate night twice. Like, it was kind of weird. So I would have, but it was because of the situation we were in. We wanted it was about the ship more than it was about anything else. But if I were to do it again, I would want different itineraries. Like we talked about, Eastern, Western Caribbean,
Right.
or if you're in Europe, that kind of thing. I mean, even, some of these sailings in Australia and New Zealand, some of those might be um, an option, or this. A lot of people will do it with like transatlantics and transpacifics, where they will book one or the one, like another cruise on the end, kind of a thing.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there are a bunch of. I think the Europe ones, spending that, doing those, connecting those, would be really, really quite fun. And then there's a bunch of ways you can do it. It's an awesome way. And one things we do want to mention is we mentioned magic bands and all the other things. If you have kids and you're doing back to back, you probably have to recheck in your kids to the kids club. Again, they will probably remember them, and it will be a much more streamlined process. But you need to do that as well. So
Mhm.
let's leave folks with some thoughts. If they're doing a back to back, sort of my early thing would be is if you want the same room, think about it early, and soon after itineraries come out, that's the best time you're going to be able to get those 2 same rooms. It makes it a lot easier if you do it early on, right?
Yeah, you want to book super early, and that's the thing. A lot of times people don't know. I mean, I had a guest just a few weeks ago that she's booked for, I think, January, and she sent me an email and she's like, "Okay, I want to turn this into a back to back." Luckily, her room happened to be there and available,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
that worked out. If you are going to be silly like me and do concierge and then non-concierge, we kind of talk about this with like land and sea, or like even doing a split stay at Disney World. Do non-concierge first and then move up. It just, you're gonna have, it doesn't matter, you're on the ship, it's great, but concierge, you truly, it's a more relaxed experience, and you really are spending a lot of time hanging out in the lounge and hanging out on their deck. So if you have that first cruise that you can really like get out your energy and explore the ship and do all of that kind of thing, and then that second cruise you can kind of just like chilling concierge, like that would be the optimal way of doing that. And if you are booked on a concierge, non-concierge, which either way it goes, concierge is not going to book stuff for you for the non-concierge sailing. So just know that, because we asked, while we were there in the lounge looking at Maria, and said, "Hey, could you get us Palo Brunch on the other cruise?" And she's like, "We're not supposed to do that." So, Don't ask.
Um,
Don't. Yeah.
The other thing is when you get off that ship, and I've heard in the transition process, you said it took almost 2 hours. I've heard as little as 45 minutes. So it will range depending on, it depends on customs and a whole bunch of other things. They're trying to get you back on board as quickly as they can. If the second cruise is Concierge, you can go into that Concierge lounge and hang out there, or on the Wish class ships, they have that gorgeous front deck area, hang out there. What a great time. And when it's all quiet, I mean, it's generally quiet up there anyway, but just a really, really nice way to reintroduce yourself to the ship. It's be a really nice, special way of doing that. So, yeah, it's just, I haven't done a back-to-back yet. One of the more interesting things, as Disney has a larger ship base now, they have more ships. I have heard of people doing, like, they do a Disney Fantasy and then they go to the Disney Wish, which is also in Port Canaveral, and do that right next door. So they're doing different. So not technically a back-to-back, but a back cruise.
Yeah,
We're seeing.
I've got somebody coming up that's going to be doing that. I don't remember the exact logistics off the top of my head, but it's the same port, but it's two different ships. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how they are going to do that as far as transportation and getting in between them. So haven't figured that out yet, but this is a new thing with Disney having two ships in the same port at the same time. Like, this is very new to us. So
From what I've heard, they will get you transportation over to the new port. So they'll get you over there. So there's a bus that takes folks over, because more and more people are doing this. So it's very nice. Anyway, there you go. Back-to-backs. If you're interested, of course, we'd love to help you do this. If we'd love for you to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel, literally it helps pay for what we're doing here today. And I'll tell you, I was a Dreams client before I was a Dreams agent, so I understand the value. We're going to think about all these things for you. The best place to start, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. You select Disney Cruise. It's a ship. You see the ship, click on that. The first page will ask your itinerary and your cruise date. If you're doing a back-to-back, just select one and then put in the notes that you want to do a back-to-back, and we can take care of the rest of it. On the second page, at the very top, there's a pull-down menu. It has all the Dreams agents. All of them are really awesome. Really, they're an impressive group. I love the team that I get to work with. You can select one, or you don't have to. If you want to select Elaine, she's awesome. Elaine, if they want to reach out to you separately because they have some question, how can they do that?
My email is Elaine, ELAINE, at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com.
And if you want to reach me, I'm Chris V. There is a Chris. So I'm Chris V at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. So, and I'm also on social media, yensid.travel.com. Yensid Travel on most of the social platforms. Yensid is Disney spelled backwards. It's also the Sorcerer and Sorcerer's Apprentice. How cool is that? Thank you so much for joining us today. A special thanks to our producer, Jimmy Valdez, as always. Coming up, we're going to talk to him about his trip to Asia parks and what that might mean for Disney Cruise Line. Can you connect those things? We're going to talk about that coming up. Can't wait to hear about Jimmy's trip. It's a secret. I know he had a great time. So thanks so much, Jimmy, for everything you do. And of course, thank you for joining us. If we really do, if you're watching or listening or whatever you're doing, leave us a review. It really does help. And there are these things called algorithms. I barely understand what the word means, but it really does help. So, and if you have topics for us, you can leave those in the YouTube comments or on the DCL fan Facebook. This topic came from one of the comments. So thank you for that. And we also have a DCL fan Facebook page where a bunch of people talking about Disney Cruise. It's really cool. Or you can just send me an email, chrisv at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. With that, safe travels, and we'll see you real soon.